I'm King Lincoln. Well, 2020 kind of sucks, doesn't it? Let's talk about some games. So, for my final video each year, I like to talk about what games I played in the year and which games I would recommend to everyone. This year, I made a database of every game I played, and it's something I'm going to try to do going forward. I played over 250 games, minus the ones I covered for Humble Bundle. It's about 115 unique games. To be clear though, I call this the best games of my year. Now the stress is on my there. I'm a single reviewer who also works a full-time job as a programmer. Any game I cover I like to beat in full, so I can't play every new release in a year, and I don't rush out to buy every game new, so okay, a couple of these are going to be games from last year, and one choice came out long before that. And yet, they're all still great enough to recommend. Now I ended up with 8 games I thought were contenders for a Game of the Year award, and out of that list, I actually made 2 cuts, Ni no Kuni 2 and Ori and the Will of the Wisp. Both are great games, but I'm not going to go into them in this video. So let's get started with the best of the year. And this year we actually have a special honoree. The special honor goes to the best VR game I played this year, or maybe even ever. It's also a game that I've always wanted, but didn't realize it. This is Star Wars Squadrons. I filmed the footage while playing on TV to make it easier for you all to see, but Star Wars Squadrons is incredible. I grew up with the original Star Wars movies, of course. One of my favorite games as a kid was X-Wing Alliance, where you got to fly a ship similar to the Millennium Falcon, the YT-1400. I also put a lot of hours into Wing Commander, playing through it multiple times. Star Wars Squadrons feels like a continuation of that style of game, but it's so much more. It's a story that encompasses both the Rebellion and Empire, and allows you to experience the story through both sides. You also have famous characters such as Admiral Akbar or Wedge Antilles showing up, and also a diverse team of multiple species. The ships are also really well done, and they look amazing. It feels so exciting to be dropped into one as you start your mission and begin flying around the galaxy. The experience is very good. But very good isn't what I'm talking about in this video. So what makes this game qualify for a Game of the Year? It's the VR. The minute I put on a VR headset for this, I totally geeked out. The first thing you do in the game is standing in a hangar and look around, and guys, that moment made me tear up. Ever since I was a little boy, I always dreamed of being on either a Star Destroyer or a Rebel ship, getting ready for a major battle. Now that it's here, it's beautiful. But then you actually fly the ships? I doubt there's words for how great this game is in VR. You feel like you're physically in this cockpit, and you're controlling this small vehicle as it whizzes around the universe to take down bad guys. Then you can jump into online and play it in VR. It too feels like nothing else. I probably got muted by everyone in my first game because I kept mumbling, "Oh my god," as I just saw it all. I couldn't believe how fluid the game felt, and simply tracking enemy ships with your head as you're flipping your ship around to shoot them, just everything about this feels natural. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had with a video game. So I'm going to give this a special award because the VR of Star Wars Squadron is so good, it makes what is an extremely good game into something that should not be missed. This is a must-play game for any Star Wars fan, of course, but if you have a VR headset, there's nothing else like this. And okay, a quick note. Since I don't get a ton of time to play in VR, it takes an extra special effort. I wasn't ready to invest $60 into, the other VR game that's really popular, so maybe we'll talk about that next year. With that being the special honoree, let's start talking about the actual list. The 5th best game I played this year is Hitman 2. I'm definitely a latecomer on this series, I understand that, but both Hitman 2016 and Hitman 2 are incredible games. They take a puzzle box approach to the level design, add in fantastic characters, stories, missions, and tasks, and then put the whole thing together to create a one-of-a-kind game. I'm over 70 hours into Hitman 2 because I adore how many different ways and interactable pieces there are to the game. There's always something new to find and discover. The game has an excellent mini-story segment that keeps giving you hints on how things can be done. There's also challenges that you have to figure out yourself and massive maps to explore. I also really like how the stealth here isn't just sneaking around and avoiding line of sight, which is a really nice touch and makes this game feel much more realistic. But this is one of the games that I adore because it's clear the developers used all their talent to create a world and a set of systems that can be used together rather than scripting exactly what has to happen. The end goal of every level is what's going to be important to the game here, but the way the level plays out is going to be up to the player. Players are given so many tools that there's always something new to discover or find out or try out, and the online community is really active with people showing off their obscure knowledge of levels. There are absolutely clever ways to complete most levels as well. And yeah, I know this game's a bit old, but Hitman 3 is coming out. It took me a while to play this one, and if you've played it, you know why this game is on the top list. If you haven't, definitely check it out. I am actually going to be waiting for Hitman 3 to come out on Steam, so, I probably am not going to see it in the next year. We'll see when that comes out. Epic's exclusivity system is stupid. I think we all know that. The fourth best game this year is Titanfall 2. And yeah, I know it's an older game, but it just came out on Steam this year, and even with almost half a decade of FPSs since its release, it's still a game with an almost perfect set of levels and campaign. So many FPSs are just action set pieces that become shooting galleries or combat arenas, but Titanfall 2 really pushes the limit, and every level here is exceptional in some way. The main character uses a parkour-style movement system to avoid enemies and perform stylish moves that feel exceptionally fresh. The giant titan is at the core of the game, and it's not just a cool idea or a weapons platform, but it becomes an integral character to the story. The story is also very well told. I felt I was personally attached to BT, the Titan, and that's exceptional because, okay, people can guess where the story about a player and his companion will always go, but when it happens here, it was still a very emotional scene even to my cynical heart. I absolutely loved the time travel level in Titanfall 2, which is why I broke it down in its own video, but I think every level in this game is exceptional and worthy of praise. It just blows my mind that there was never a Titanfall 3, but if you're like me and you skipped this game at the original launch, especially when it was sandwiched between a Battlefield and a Call of Duty game, go back and give this one a shot. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. The third best game I played this year, Outer Wilds. Now, let me be clear, Outer Wilds, not Outer Worlds. This is from a small developer called Mobius Digital. An interesting fact, that studio was actually founded by the guy who played Hero and Heroes, which is kind of cool on its own. This game, though, is about exploring a solar system that contains several planets, including your home world, Timberhearth. And everything about Outer Wilds is exploration, so I'm going to try to avoid saying too much here, but you'll find yourself digging into the history of each planet, which starts to fill in the backstory of what goes on in this universe. Outer Wilds is also a game about puzzles, where there's so many little things hidden in secret locations. It can be anything from a device that looks deactivated until you do something specific, to understanding how to explore the depths of a water world. Many pieces of Outer Wilds puzzles are hidden on multiple different worlds, and players can move freely between the worlds, and at times are going to be required to. There's also an interesting time limit on Outer Wilds. After 22 minutes, the star that you're revolving around goes supernova and time will reset. It gives you a Groundhog Day style experience where you're constantly trying to push the limits of what you can do on each loop. And hopefully one day you'll understand the how and the why of everything that you will have found. This was one of the first games I played this year on Epic, and it stuck with me so much that I wanted to continue to support this team. I actually bought a second copy when it came to Steam, so if you're into exploration games or puzzle games, I highly recommend this one, and I can't wait for the next game from this studio. I'll buy it sight unseen. The second best game this year is Disco Elysium. So I used to be a huge fan of RPGs, and while I still enjoy them, I find their stories to be a little typical and boring. Disco Elysium made me realize that might not be my fault. Disco Elysium is a cleverly written and well-delivered piece of fiction that focuses on its writing so heavily that it doesn't need a combat system that pops up every 10 seconds hoping to distract the player from the story. Or rather, it handles both the skills and combat as part of the narration rather than being something additional outside of it. Disco Elysium is a noir-style detective story with the player taking control of a flawed protagonist who seems to have wrecked his life. This is an absolute mess of a character, and what's great is Disco Elysium doesn't ask the player to make him a better person or force the player to watch the tragedy unfold. Rather, the player has the ability to literally roleplay as the main character and can choose to try to straighten out his life or steer into the skid and continue his self-destructive path. But it's the writing here that really stands out, and I couldn't put down this game because I wanted to see what would happen next. I wanted to see if the game would refer to how I told a woman that I want to make fuck with you. I wanted to see if the failures of my character would change the story in a meaningful way, and I wanted to see if the game would let me get away with the mistakes I would inevitably make. And Disco Elysium delivered on each of these areas of the game. Each time I expected Disco Elysium to be challenged by my actions, I was surprised with how effortlessly their handling of these topics seems. I love that minor conversations earlier in this game could become discussion points later on, how my personal build changed what I would see and what I would hear in the story, and how I might find different avenues of investigations with new leads. As I replayed Disco Elysium for this video, I also remembered how depressing and morose this game is while keeping the player interested. This isn't a happy, cheerful experience, but a story that focused on a failed city after a failed revolution, and yet the way Disco Elysium approaches that story creates a one-of-a-kind experience. If you're a fan of storytelling, detective novels, or just an ability to roleplay as a character completely and not be given a predetermined path to follow, you'll enjoy Disco Elysium. Though if you're interested, I might recommend waiting for the Final Cut version that's set to be released in the next year, as it will be fully voice acted, and that should improve an already great game to even higher levels. It's a free upgrade, but should be the best version of this game. And the best game I've played this year, I really thought about this one, and the fact is I really can't see a way that Hades doesn't deserve this slot. Supergiant is an incredible developer. Bastion was amazing, Transistor was great, but Hades is something else. It feels like an evolution of a genre. I could go on and on about Hades for 20 minutes, but I'll put it this way. Hades has changed what I feel like I can expect from a roguelite. I no longer feel the core gameplay loop is all I want to focus on. Hades has a well-designed progression system that helps make the adventure easy enough that anyone can tackle it. It has a difficulty system that can make the game near impossible again if desired. That difficulty is also customizable, which allows the player to decide how to challenge himself. But what really stands out to me is that they added something that most roguelites are unable or unwilling to do. It's the story in Hades that impressed me the most. This is a game about repetition, but weaved throughout the hundreds of runs are encounters with most of the great Greek gods and heroes. At the core of this game is a story about how Zagreus deals with his father, Hades, the lord of the underworld, but it's also how the rest of the Greek pantheon look at the world as well. Hades is just a very satisfying experience on top of everything else. It has excellent gameplay, wonderful production values, an interesting setting and story, and the allure of finding out what will happen on your next run. And each of these parts kept me coming back to Hades for so long, it feels wrong for anything else to earn the top spot. So that's my top game of the year, but I highly recommend checking out all these games because they're all excellent. I want to take a moment and discuss this channel a bit, and rather than making a second video, I'll do it as a quick addendum here. So YouTube in general is a hard thing to do. I've said it takes like 20 hours for me to make a video. That includes writing, recording, and putting the video together. And sometimes my videos go off, like my Hades video. Most of the time though, my video gets less than 300 views, and I appreciate every view, don't get me wrong. But it's really hard to ignore that as a sum total of all the work that I've done, the end result is how many views I get on a video. I often think maybe my time could have been spent playing a game, which is truthfully what I really love. A lot of YouTube actually comes down to a promotion thing. I'll leave that discussion and a look at the state of YouTube gaming videos for another day. Yet, I still like making videos, but I think I have to make a personal change. First, the Humble Choice reviews are going to continue. Don't worry about that. It's a nice, consistent video, and I love giving my opinion on those games. Just so you know, it is a ton of work. It's like basically that entire weekend is spent only on that video, but I also find it oddly fun, so you can expect those videos to be out on the first Monday after a Humble Choice releases. I'm not going to be changing that. As for the rest of my content, I'm going to be moving to a when it's done format. I'll try to put out an extra video each month, but trying to race to put out content means the quality of the content suffers in quite a few ways. As of right now, I'm planning on doing a single video in January which focuses on the first year of Humble Choice and looking at that. I don't have a target release date, which is kind of the point of this announcement, so when I'm done writing and shooting it, it might come out. Or maybe I'll scrap it and do something else. For everyone who follows me though, I hope you understand and look forward to each of my videos, and I want to thank you for following me or checking out my content. I also have my website where I still do written reviews of almost every game I've played, so you can always check that out, kinglink-reviews.com. Thank you all for staying through that. As always, if you're somehow new here, subscribe and ring the bell for notifications whenever I put out new videos, and if you think I missed a big game of 2020, or if there's a particular game coming out next year you think I should check out, let me know down in the comments. I'll do my best. I'll put links to my videos on Hades and Disco Elysium on screen so you can check those videos out and find out more about why I enjoyed those particular games. Until then, I'm King Link, and thanks for watching.